Today's story is about a kind store owner and the greed of entitlement, and why you should never push a woman too far. Do enjoy this tale from beyond the grave. In the heart of a small, quaint town stood Jennings Convenience, a time-honoured establishment that had weathered the storms of change for decades. Mr. Albert Jennings, a silver-haired man with a warm smile, etched by years of community service, was the heart and soul of the beloved convenience store. The townspeople cherished Mr. Jennings, not just as a store owner, but as a pillar of the community. He knew every resident by name, their preferences, and even the stories of their lives. Generosity flowed from him like a gentle stream, as he had an uncanny knack for helping those in need. Whether it was providing groceries to struggling families or offering a listening ear to those burdened with worries, Mr. Jennings was the embodiment of a small town warmth. His store, though modest in size, held the essence of the town's history. The creaking wooden floors bore witness to countless footsteps, and the shelves were adorned with products that reflected the diverse needs of the community. Locals gathered at Jennings Convenience not just for essentials, but for the sense of belonging and camaraderie. On a chilly autumn day, the news arrived like a bitter wind. The powerful Global Mart had set its sights on the small town. Plans were underway to build a massive superstore on the outskirts, threatening the existence of the beloved Jennings Convenience. The townspeople, loyal and protective of their local icon, rallied around Mr. Jennings, forming a united front against the impending corporation. In response to the threat, the town organised events to celebrate Mr. Jennings, parades, festivals and gatherings where residents shared heartwarming stories of the times he had seamlessly come to their aid. The air buzzed with gratitude, and the bond between Mr. Jennings and the community only deepened. As the days passed, more and more locals vowed never set foot in the looming shadow of Global Mart. They stood by Mr. Jennings, expressing their loyalty, not just with words, but with their continued patronage. Little did they know that a unity would draw the attention of the forces beyond their understanding, setting the stage for a sinister plot that would challenge the very fabric of their close-knit town. The crisp autumn air hung heavy with tension as the townspeople's defiance reached a fever pitch. Global Mart, realizing the townsfolk unwielding loyalty to Jennings Convenience, decided to take a different approach. A sleek black sedan pulled up in front of the quaint store, and a tall, well-dressed man stepped out. This was Adrian Greenfield, the ambitious son of the Global Mart's CEO. The town square, usually a bustling hub of activity, fell silent as Mr. Jennings, with his trademark worn apron and kind eyes, approached the suited figure. "Mr. Jennings," Adrian began, a condescending smirk playing on his lips. "We've seen the charming tales of your little store and its hold on this town. We're willing to offer you a substantial sum, more than your quaint establishment could ever dream of making. Consider it a gracious exit strategy." Mr. Jennings, though weathered by age, stood tall, his eyes unwavering. "This store is more than just a business to me, Mr. Greenfield. It's a part of the soul of this community. I won't sell it to be swallowed by the likes of Global Mart." Adrian's smirk faded, replaced by a cold determination. "You'll regret this, old man. Global Mart always gets what it wants, and you and your precious town will learn that soon enough." With that ominous warning, Adrian returned to his sedan, leaving a palpable chill in the air. The townspeople, who had been eavesdropping on the conversation, murmured anxiously among themselves. They felt the weight of the impending battle against the corporate giant. As the black sedan disappeared down the winding road, Mr. Jennings couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that lingered. The offer was not just a business proposition, it carried a veiled threat. The townspeople, unaware of the sinister undertones, continued their support, holding fundraisers and rallies to fortify the spirit of resistance. The peaceful facade of Willow Creek shattered as Global Mart escalated its efforts to dismantle the resilience of Jennings Convenience. A group of ominous figures clad in dark clothing stationed themselves outside the quaint store. Their menacing presence loomed like a dark cloud over the once welcoming atmosphere. As the townspeople approached Jennings' convenience, the thugs would leer menacingly, blocking the entrance with their imposing stature. Fear crept through the community, and whispers of intimidation spread like wildfire. The air became heavy with tension as the people hesitated to defy the ominous figures that now guarded the heart of their town. Adrian Greenfield, fueled by a ruthless determination to see Jennings' convenience crumble, exploited the fear he had instilled. He orchestrated a campaign of rumors designed to tarnish Mr. Jennings. Flyers were plastered across the town accusing Mr. Jennings of tax evasion and deceit. The once beloved store owner found himself at the center of a vicious smear campaign. The townspeople, uncertain and frightened, began to question their loyalty to Mr. Jennings. The seed of doubt planted by Adrian's rumors grew into a thorny vine, entangling the trust that had once bound the community together. As customers dwindled, the financial strain on Jennings' convenience became palpable. Adrian, unsatisfied with the chaos he had sown, decided to strike directly at the heart of Mr. Jennings' world. Under the cover of night, a group of intruders, perhaps affiliated with the thugs who guarded the store, broke into the Jennings residence. The sound of shattered glass and muffled whispers echoed through the once quiet house. In the darkened corridors of Mr. Jennings' home, the intruders ransacked the rooms, stealing valuable possessions and leaving destruction in their wake. Unbeknownst to them, Mrs. Jennings awakened by the commotion. She confronted the intruders. In the chaotic struggle that ensued, tragedy struck. Mrs. Jennings, the steadfast partner who had shared her lifetime with Mr. Jennings, lost her life in the very home that had once been a sanctuary of their love and warmth. Now we're going to have a short scare break while you ease your nerves. So while you're waiting, don't forget, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and stab that subscribe button right now. As doing so, you'll really help the professor spread his shadow of evil. Now, let's get back to the story. The news of Mrs. Jennings' death sent shockwaves through the town, transforming the sympathy that once surrounded Mr. Jennings into a torrent of grief and rage. The lines between reality and the malevolent forces at play blurred as the town became a battleground, and the shadows of deceit and vengeance deepened. The stage was set for a reckoning that would test the limits of the town's loyalty and the resilience of Mr. Jennings. The air in Mr. Jennings' home hung thick with grief and despair. The once vibrant rooms now echoed with emptiness, mirroring the void that had consumed his life. The funeral of his beloved wife had marked a solemn farewell, leaving him isolated in a world that seemed to have crumbled around him. Alone in a dimly lit room, Mr. Jennings sat amidst the remnants of a shattered existence. The weight of loss pressed upon him, and the shadows seemed to dance in the corners, reflecting the darkness that had descended upon his quaint town. In the silence, a subtle rustling sound reached Mr. Jennings' ears. His weary eyes searched the room as a soft glow materialized. A figure, ethereal and gentle, emerged from the shadows. It was his wife, a spectral manifestation of the love they had shared for so many years. Albert. Her voice, though distant, carried a warmth that transcended the boundary between the living and the departed. Mr. Jennings, his eyes welling with tears, whispered, "Is this a dream, Martha? Have I finally lost my mind?" Martha's spirit drifted closer, her form radiating a soft, calming light. "No, my love, I've come to warn you. They seek to extinguish the light that remains in your heart. Dark forces have conspired against you, and the shadows that now linger are not of this world." Mr. Jennings, still grappling with the anguish of his recent losses, stared at the apparition of his wife in disbelief. Who would do such a thing? What have I done to deserve this torment? Martha's spectral gaze bore into his soul, conveying a mixture of sorrow and determination. the darkness is drawn to the light. Your kindness, your generosity, it made you a beacon in this town. But those who dwell in darkness resent such warmth. They want to snuff out the last embers of hope within you." As Martha spoke, a chilling wind swept through the room, extinguishing the feeble flames of the candles that flickered. "They're coming for you next," she whispered, her voice carrying an urgency that cut through the silence. "Beware the shadows, Albert. They wear the faces of men, but they are fueled by greed and desire. But there is a way to protect you, my love." With those haunting words, Martha's spirit faded back into the shadows, leaving Mr. Jennings alone in the dimly lit room. The warning echoed in his mind, a desperate plea from the other side, as he contemplated the ethereal encounter. The shadows seemed to grow denser, and the quiet house became a battleground between the darkness that sought to consume him and the resilient spark of light that still flickered within his heart. The sun rose on the quiet town, casting a pallor over the town that mirrored the heavy hearts of its residents. Jennings' convenience, once a bustling haven, remained tightly shut, its windows darkened. Concerned customers, accustomed to the familiar creak of the door and the jingle of the bell, gathered in front, their worry etched on their faces. Unable to shake the uneasy feeling that had settled over the town, one of Mr. Jennings' long-time patrons decided to take action. Concern transformed into a sense of urgency, and a call was made to the local authorities to check on the reclusive store owner. The police, sensing the gravity of the situation, arrived at Mr. Jennings' home. The air hung thick with anticipation as they approached the door, which stood slightly ajar. Cautiously, they entered the dimly lit house, greeted by an eerie silence that seemed to seep through the walls. As they traversed the corridors, a faint glow emanated from the room at the end of the hallway. The officers pushed open the door to find a scene that would haunt their dreams. A room adorned with strange symbols, candles flickering in a spectral dance, and runes etched into the floor. At the center of this mystic tableau lay Mr. Jennings, lifeless and surrounded by an otherworldly aura. His eyes, once warm and kind, were now vacant, staring into a realm beyond mortal understanding. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, unable to comprehend the surreal sight that unfolded before them. News of Mr. Jennings' demise spread like wildfire through the town. Grief-stricken whispers echoed in the streets as residents struggled to reconcile the image of the benevolent store owner with the mysterious circumstances of his death. The very heart of the small town had been extinguished, leaving behind a void that seemed impossible to fill. Amidst the mourning, Adrian Greenfield, the orchestrator of Mr. Jennings' downfall, revelled in the apparent triumph of Global Mart. The once thriving town now lay in the clutches of corporate greed, and the sense of community that had bound the residents together was replaced by an unsettling emptiness. A year had passed since the demise of Mr. Jennings, and the once vibrant town had succumbed to the shadows of corporate influence. Global Mart's looming presence now cast a perpetual darkness over the town, and the residents found themselves entangled in a web of debt and despair orchestrated by Adrian Greenfield. Adrian, reveling in the newfound dominance, had transformed the town into a haunting reflection of its former self. The once loyal patrons of Jennings' convenience now wandered the aisles of Global Mart, their faces etched with a hollow gaze. The hired thugs, instruments of Adrian's ruthless control, enforced a cycle of credit and interest that bound the residents into perpetual servitude. On this ominous night, a strange energy permeated the air. The atmosphere crackled with an otherworldly force, and a mysterious glow emanated from the cemetery where Mr. Jennings rested. Unbeknownst to the town, a hand burst from the soil, breaking through the earthly confines of the grave. Slowly and methodically, Mr. Jennings clawed his way back to the realm of the living. The spectral figure, clad in tattered remnants of his burial clothes, moved with an eerie purpose. The ethereal glow that surrounded him illuminated his determined gaze as he embarked on a silent journey through the darkened streets of his beloved town. Adrian Greenfield, nestled in the opulence of his home, remained blissfully unaware of the supernatural awakening transpiring outside. The town had become his kingdom, and the residents mere pawns in his corporate chess game. As Mr. Jennings approached Adrian's imposing residence, the shadows seemed to retreat in his presence. The once vibrant garden wilted, and the air grew thick with an otherworldly energy. The hired thugs, patrolling the vicinity, felt a chill down their spines as an invisible force hinted at the impending reckoning. In the stillness of the night, Mr. Jennings stood before Adrian's mansion, his spectral presence, undeterred by the physical barriers that separated them. The glow intensified as he raised his spectral hand, his gaze fixed on the architect of his demise. Adrian Greenfield's opulent mansion, a fortress of wealth and power, stood silent as Mr. Jennings, his undead form captured on the security cameras, navigated its halls with a determined but stumbling gait. The ethereal glow around him flickered in the cold, sterile light of the mansion. As Mr. Jennings pushed open the door to Adrian's vast office, Adrian's eyes widened in horror. The once kind face of the beloved store owner was now a grotesque visage of decay and emptiness. Adrian recoiled, muttering to himself, "This can't be!" In a panicked reflex, Adrian barked, "Take him down!" 5 burly thugs, armed and ready, opened fire on Mr. Jennings. The room echoed with the thunderous roar of gunfire as the spectral figure was struck by a barrage of bullets. His form crumpled on the floor, lifeless, or so it seemed. Adrian, triumphant and derisive, laughed. All that effort for this. What a waste. But the room fell into a sudden silence, broken only by the raspy breaths of Mr. Jennings on the cold marble floor. "I came to warn you. I told her not to." At that moment, a haunting wail filled the air, a sound that sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it. The doors burst open, and Martha, an ethereal form bathed in a ghostly bluish-green light, entered the room. The thugs panicked, opened fire again, but the bullets passed through her spectral form. Martha latched onto one of them, draining his life force as he aged before their eyes, collapsing to the floor in a heap of decay. The room fell into an eerie silence as Martha, her spectral gaze fixed on Adrian, absorbed the life force of each thug in the room, leaving them withered and lifeless. Adrian, cornered and terrified, could only watch as Martha turned her attention to him. Just as he thought his demise was imminent, Martha disappeared. The room fell silent, and Adrian, confused, looked around. Then the bodies of his thugs began to convulse. Adrian's eyes widened with horror as they rose, their once burly forms now decayed and aged. They shambled towards him with a relentless determination that sent chills down his spine. As the undead thugs closed in, Adrian realized the true nature of the spectral justice that had befallen him. The very life force that had been drained from them was now the catalyst for their relentless pursuit. In the darkness of the mansion, a symphony of decayed moans accompanied the inexorable advance of the undead enforcers. Adrian, trapped in his own fortress, faced a spectral reckoning that transcended the boundaries of life and death. The room, once a symbol of his power, had become a macabre stage for the vengeful dance of the departed, and the echo of Martha's wail lingered in the air as the spectral justice unfolded. The dawn of a new day revealed a town changed forever by the spectral justice that unfolded. Adrian Greenfield, the orchestrator of despair, was discovered dead in his mansion, surrounded by his undead thugs, a macabre tableau of poetic retribution. Upon further investigation, the truth of Adrian's malevolent activities came to light. Fraud, blackmail, and ties to illicit drugs stained his name, tarnishing the reputation of his father's company. The shame was too great, forcing the corporation to pull out from the local town, leaving behind a void that echoed with the weight of its consequences. The residents, initially apprehensive about the looming threat from the next town, found solace in an unsuspecting source: the old Jennings convenience store, against all odds. The once shuttered establishment stood open, lights aglow, and a sense of familiarity that transcended the years. As the townspeople curiously entered the store, they were greeted by a smiling couple, new proprietors who exuded warmth and kindness. It became apparent that Mr. Jennings, even in death, had left behind a legacy of resilience and community spirit that defied the darkness that had tried to consume the town. The mystery unraveled as the details of Mr. Jennings' insurance and last will came to light. In an act of foresight, he had ensured that a year after his passing, the insurance money would be used to reopen the store. New staff, carefully selected for their dedication to the community, now operated the store, following Mr. Jennings' principles and fairness of generosity. The insurance not only breathed life back into Jennings' convenience, but also became a beacon of hope for the town. The store, now under the stewardship of the smiling couple, would remain open for a long time, serving as a testament to the enduring spirit of the town. The residents, once ensnared by the shadows of despair, found a renewed sense of community and restored faith in the resilience of their town. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the old convenience store stood as a symbol of triumph over adversity and the indomitable spirit of those who dared to resist their encroaching darkness. The echoes of Mr. Jennings' legacy lingered, ensuring that the heart of the town would continue to beat, undeterred by the trials that had threatened to extinguish its light. And if you're still looking to fulfill your thirst for more horror, don't forget to check out this next video, unless of course you are frozen with fear already.